There are more than a dozen Wetherspoon public houses across Leeds and surrounding areas, such as Beckett's Bank, in a building that was previously a bank in the city centre, though it wasn't Beckett's Bank. Beckett's Bank existed further down Park Row. The Picture House in Morley is more accurately named. Between 1914 and 1962, the former cinema was in fact called the Picture House. The Golden Beam in Headingley is named after an Atkinson Grimshaw painting. Grimshaw lived and painted in the area, but there the connection with this building ends. And similarly, the Scribbling Mill at the White Rose Centre is so called because the area is well known for its mills, but there is no direct link with the location of the pub. So what about the Cuthbert Brodrick, the Wetherspoon public house overlooking Millennium Square in Leeds? Is there any connection between one of Yorkshire's celebrated architects and what is essentially a new build? Well, for one thing, the pub partly occupies the site of one of Brodrick's buildings, the Cookridge Street Public Baths, which opened in 1866. These baths survived for nearly a century until closing in 1965 and were demolished in 1969. And from the terrace of the Cuthbert Brodrick, you can see the building which made it all happen for the young architect, and probably the most famous building in the city, the Leeds Town Hall. Not only that, just across from the pub is the Leeds City Museum, formerly the Leeds Institute, another of Brodrick's buildings. Around the corner from the Cuthbert Brodrick are the Brodrick buildings, yet another of his designs, on a street that has examples of his work on either side. For me, the Cuthbert Brodrick is a very appropriate name for a pub at this spot. Brodrick arrived in Leeds like a bolt out of the blue in 1852. Originally from Hull, he learnt his trade from the age of 15 in a 7-year apprenticeship to architect Henry Lockwood. This 1841 census shows Brodrick living with his parents. He was born on the 1st of December 1821, so was actually 19 at the time of the census. Cuthbert's father was a well-off ship owner and merchant in Hull and supported his son financially, including a year between 1844 and 1845 when Brodrick travelled around Europe. His travels helped to develop his love of classical architecture. When he returned from the continent, he moved back to his parents. He was still living with them on census night in 1851. By this time, he had refused the offer of a partnership in Lockwood's firm, had set up his own practice in Hull, and had designed a number of buildings in and around the town. However, he was still largely unknown. His winning design for the Leeds Town Hall would change that. In 1852, Leeds Town Council tendered for designs from architects in an open competition. This was a common method of selecting architects for important buildings in the 19th century. Entries were anonymised for impartiality. The brief was for a kind of building that did not yet exist in England, combining under one roof the functions of moot halls, concert rooms and courthouses, along with municipal offices and a suite of reception rooms for the mayor. Renowned English architect Charles Barry was an assessor on the committee that selected the winning design, and the contract was revealed to have been won by Cuthbert Brodrick. There were reservations at first, mostly relating to Brodrick's youth, but Barry provided confirmation of Brodrick's abilities in the construction of such a large building, and said that he was fully satisfied that the council might trust Brodrick with the most perfect safety. Building commenced in 1853. In the first plans, the hall was large and flat in aspect. The distinctive clock tower, which serves as a landmark and a symbol of Leeds, was added later by Brodrick in 1856, as the civic leaders sought to make an even grander statement. Leeds Town Hall was opened by Queen Victoria in a lavish ceremony in September 1858. Brodrick's practice had been growing during the building of the Town Hall, and he had opened an office on Park Row in Leeds. He designed Wells House, a large hydropathic establishment and hotel in Ilkley, at the same time as the Town Hall was being built. It opened in 1856. He also won a silver medal for his proposal for the restoration of Leeds Cathedral. Moorland Terrace in Leeds, at the junction of Clarendon Road, University Road and Moorland Road, was completed in 1859. The building was constructed in brick with stone flourishes, but was lost when buildings were demolished to make way for the spreading University of Leeds campus. Today, there is a small green space where the terrace used to be. Still surviving is 9 Alma Road in Headingley, a 2-storey house constructed in 1859 and formerly known as Oak Bank. It is an attractive property in coursed gritstone and ashlar with a slate-hipped roof. Even in smaller projects, Brodrick sought to include finer details. In 1860, Cuthbert Brodrick was again successful in a competition for a new public building, and work began on the Leeds Corn Exchange, arguably his most original design. Elliptical in plan, with 2 low projecting porches that are semicircular, it was built between 1861 and 1863 for the viewing and trading of corn kernels. The footprint and domed roof derived from an awkwardly shaped site and the need to admit the maximum amount of natural, undazzling, shadowless north light throughout the year to facilitate the viewing of the minute kernels. The walls outside and inside consist of 2 tiers of semicircular headed windows, and the exterior is faced with diamond, rusticated masonry, which is rarely seen in the UK. The roof is made of timber, iron, and a combination of opaque and clear glass. It is a splendid building, which was converted into shops after partial disuse in the 1980s. The interior space is completely open, with a perimeter mezzanine, which leads on to shop units and exhibition spaces. In what turned out to be a relatively short career, Brodrick seemed keen to turn his hand to a variety of buildings. In 1862, he designed the King Street warehouses. The design made much use of moulded brickwork. It was demolished in 1967, making way for Bank House, the brutalist Bank of England building. Some detail of the side elevation of the King Street warehouses can be seen on the left edge of this photograph. Headingley Hill Congregational Church is the only church to be designed by the celebrated architect. A committee was formed in January 1864 with a goal of building an elegant structure that could hold 600 people. In May that year, the committee asked Cuthbert Brodrick to be their architect. Brodrick submitted his plans on June the 25th, and a special ceremony was held on October the 22nd to lay the foundation stone. The building was finished in the summer of 1866 and officially opened on August the 29th. Brodrick designed a number of buildings in his hometown, including the Royal Institution in 1852 and the Town Hall in 1866, but sadly no significant buildings by him survive in Hull. There are examples of his work surviving in Driffield. One of Brodrick's smaller designs in Leeds is number 49 and 51 Cookridge Street, completed in 1864. Even in a smaller space he provides something out of the ordinary. Red brick is carefully matched with stone dressings. There are recessed entrances to left and right, large windows and Gothic cast iron balconies. Despite a sloping street front, he manages to offer symmetry and interest. Powerfully dominating the opposite side of Cookridge Street is the Leeds Institute, designed by Brodrick and built between 1865 and 1868. At the centre of this building was a lecture hall, seating 1,500 people, with a balcony supported on cast iron columns. Around this were arranged on 2 floors the library, reading room, classrooms, laboratory, art studio and various other facilities, including a dining room. The interior was much altered through the 20th century, with the lecture hall used as the civic theatre between 1925 and 2005. It now houses the city's museum, with the central circular lecture theatre converted into exhibition space. Directly opposite Leeds City Museum, on part of the site of Millennium Square, were Brodrick's Oriental and General Baths, otherwise known as Cookridge Street Baths. Bands of coloured red, blue and black brickwork and Indian-style ornamentation would have given the building a truly Oriental feel. However, only 15 years after construction, in 1882, the building was extended, refaced and considerably altered. The original domes were removed and replaced by pyramid-shaped towers and roof gables. After demolition, the site became a car park for a number of years, until Millennium Square was developed in the year 2000. Brodrick's reputation spread far beyond his native county, and for a time he even had an office in London. When a group of Yorkshire businessmen were looking to build a lavish hotel in the up-and-coming seaside town of Scarborough, they turned to Cuthbert Brodrick for the design and planning. Building began in 1863, and when it opened on July the 24th, 1867, it was both the largest hotel and the largest brick structure in Europe, providing a massive boost to the town's reputation as a holiday destination. Along with its vast size, it is said the Grand Hotel was built in unusual V-shaped style in honour of Queen Victoria, although others have pointed to geological reasons, high on the cliff-top location. What does make this building so interesting is the unique motif. 4 towers to represent the seasons, 12 floors for the months of the year, 52 chimneys for the weeks of the year, and 365 bedrooms to represent the days in the year. Another intriguing selling point of the hotel was that it offered extra taps that let customers bathe in salt water as well as fresh water. These quirks, coupled with the high standards of service and clientele, made the Grand Hotel a favourite among holidaymakers. It is a huge landmark in the seaside town to this day. Sadly, the hotel became one of Brodrick's last grand statements. Despite great success, it wasn't without disappointment. Abandoned commissions and unsuccessful competition entries triggered a dramatic reaction. He closed his office in 1869 and retired from architecture. In 1870, he moved to France with the love of his life, Margaret Chatham, who was 7 years older and married. It is likely the couple had been in a relationship for many years. In 1885, they returned briefly to England to be married after Margaret's husband died. But married life was short-lived, and Mrs. Brodrick passed away in 1887, prompting Cuthbert to eventually sell his house on the outskirts of Paris and move to the Channel Islands. In the 1891 census, the former architect is living with his niece Anne at a property called La Colline in Gorey in Jersey. Anne was the daughter of Cuthbert's brother Charles. The 2 family members were again listed at the same address 10 years later in 1901. The age of Anne in this census return is odd, but likely to have been a clerical error. Cuthbert died in the Channel Islands 4 years later on the 2nd of March 1905. His final resting place is St Martin's Churchyard in Gorey. In his later life, it is said he spent his time designing and planting his garden in Jersey. It was a long way from Yorkshire, and in particular his successes in Leeds. Though, thankfully, we still have some of his splendid designs to look upon and enjoy. I hope you've enjoyed this Leeds Local History video. There are many more on the Geography Juice channel. Thank you for watching.